take you back in time this morning, all the way back to the year 2002, not all that long ago. There was a special edition of Scientific American that was called The Hidden Mind. Here's the cover of it, I think. I've got it up here. Anyway, yep, there it is. The Hidden Mind, Mysteries of Consciousness, and so on and so forth. Special edition. One of the articles in it was called The Mind-Body Interaction and Disease, and it was based on a peer-reviewed paper which examined how the mind played an important role in certain kinds of physical illnesses. The first line of the article went like this. It said, "The brain and the immune system continuously signal each other, often along the same pathways, which may explain how state of mind influences health." So what they were finding, essentially, is that the same chemicals that affect behavior and affect the stress response are also responsible for turning on and off. Are you getting a ring? Thank you. Well, that's a little better. It doesn't sound like I'm in the bottom of a barrel, does it? Anymore. Thank you. They're finding out that these chemicals are responsible for turning on and off our immune response, which is kind of a big deal. And this chemical communication can get disrupted in a lot of different ways, which can lead to different kinds of illnesses that we call inflammatory diseases, autoimmune disorders, and associated mood disorders and things like that. So the main culprit in getting things out of balance is this thing that we call stress. Anything we can do to reduce stress is going to help us to restore that natural balance. You all know what stress is, right?
Yeah.
Anybody remember, anybody a Bloom County fan here? You might recognize our friend Bill the cat, who usually says ack, but this time he says something else too that I can't say. But and I'll read this for the folks who are listening to this online. Stress. The confusion created when one's mind overrides the body's basic desire to choke the living daylights out of somebody who desperately needs it. And we can all think of probably someone that might fit that bill in our lives. Leaves you feeling kind of frazzled, or it can leave you feeling like this next slide here, like a zebra who's coming unraveled. Says that I think that it's stress. And there have been over the years a lot of these homegrown remedies for stress floating around out there. I don't know, like aromatherapy, essential oils or whatever. But nothing I've come across can compare to the simplicity of this homemade stress reduction kit that I found online. And everybody knows if you can Google it, it's true, right? And once again, let me describe the instructions. It says stress reduction kit. There's a big circle with the words bang head here. Simple 4-step instructions. Place kit on firm surface. Follow directions in circle of kit. Bang head here. Repeat step 2 as necessary or until unconscious. If unconscious, cease stress reduction activity. And as a former lawyer, I would say that there would have to be an added word, cease stress reduction activity immediately. Stress. Bad stuff. But fortunately, I think we can do better than banging our head against a table. Something that maybe doesn't involve blows to the head or choking the stuff out of anyone or anything like that. We're going to talk about mindfulness and health, mindfulness and stress reduction. You know, from a medical standpoint, this whole concept of stress, I was surprised to find this. It's a recent development. It came up back in the 1950s. There was this scientist named Hans Selye, who was the first one to use the word stress the way we're using it here today. Because before that, stress was basically an engineering term. You would talk about the stress load placed on a structure or a vehicle, things like that. It had nothing to do with human physiology. Dr. Selye comes along and he had this theory that stress was an emotional response to some kind of a demand being placed on the body, just like physical stresses in engineering. These demands would cause physical changes to the body, and it was kind of a revolutionary idea. at the time. This very idea that something that we consider to be part of the mind can actually affect the body. Of course, we've been talking about that for a long time in Unity. Our emotional experiences, our experiences at the thought level do have an effect on our physical health and well-being. All the way back in the year 500 BC, you can find temples that were built to the god of healing, Asclepius. I think we have a picture of Asclepius up here. The god of healing, those temples back then weren't hospitals. They were more like health spas back then, because they knew about this mind-body connection back then as well. And consider today, consider the way hospital design and architecture has changed over the years. Anybody remember what hospitals were like that were built in the first part of the 20th century, or even built in the 40s and 50s? Yeah, they were these sterile structures that I think were built by the same folks that designed and built our prisons. And nowadays it's totally different. They go to great lengths to try to incorporate natural light, access to gardens and green spaces wherever possible as part of that, because they know that stress reduction and finding ways to bring about this relaxation response and get rid of the stress is important to healing. Our scientific method had evolved to the point where we could see and measure the activities of the brain, could prove that the brain was responsible for releasing these hormones and chemicals that would regulate our immune system and other important systems. So they were proving constant stress causes an overload. And of course, not all stress is bad or harmful. The brain's stress response gets activated when we're exposed to a threatening situation. That's a good thing. Whether it's an external threat like some animal that's getting ready to have us for dinner, or a foreign substance entering the body like bacteria and viruses, the stress response is trying to protect us, and it's automatic. And again, that's a good thing. Its job is to deal with the threat. When the threat triggers the fight or flight response, we don't want to have to think about it, right? When it's an internal threat, we want the immune system to go to work even before we're aware that there's something wrong. We'd be in big trouble if it didn't work that way. I mean, imagine driving your car down the street and another car pulls out in front of you. The response is automatic. You don't write a thesis first. You don't analyze the situation. You hit the brakes. And your heart is pounding, right? And your temperature seems to have gone up. And you're breathing hard, but you're alive. That's the whole idea. We couldn't survive if it didn't work like that, so there's a positive function. But as we know, there's more to life than mere survival. Survival has to come first. After that, we have to make sure that our survival mechanisms aren't getting in the way of our continued evolution. The problem arises when we can't turn the stress response off. When the brain's stress response system is being constantly activated, it can make us sick. Even before scientists came up with a technical description of stress, people suspected that there was something going on. Back in the 1800s, the neurologist George Beard called it nervousness. And he said that the primary causes of nervousness were, number one, the periodical press, which is a 1800s way of saying the news media, right? Even then they were blaming our stress on the news media. And he also said the other causes were the steam railroad, the telegraph, and the sciences. Sound familiar? It seems like we're always blaming technology for our stress, right? We're anxious to place the blame outside of us instead of where it belongs, inside, looking at our response to the external trigger instead of always trying to change the externals. Got it all backwards. So, rapid social or technological change can cause chronic stress, but it's an inside job. It can cause all sorts of problems, and one of the things that it does, by the way, is it can cause our immune system to get out of whack. We hear a lot of claims from alternative medicine sources which talk about boosting the immune system. I think we need to be kind of careful about that because, well, you've heard the old saying, be careful what you wish for, right? A boosted immune system is an overactive immune system which can be the cause of certain autoimmune diseases. An overactive immune system can result in those kind of problems. So it isn't so much that stress alone causes all these problems. There's often a genetic predisposition, and stress is a triggering mechanism. All of those things go together. So I think we made the case that excessive stress is something we need to first avoid, if possible, and to reduce when we can't avoid it. And this is where mindfulness comes in. And again, like I said last week, meditation, mindfulness, they're often used interchangeably. I don't think that's 100% accurate, but it's close enough for our purposes here. Meditation has been shown to produce something called the relaxation response. It's a powerful antidote to stress. If we can't avoid stress in the first place, then this is a tool to help to reduce it. But the other thing that meditation can do is to increase our sense of awareness, both as to our internal contents of consciousness and also what's going on in the world around us. That's where we learn how to cut off stressful thought patterns before they create the problem. We learn better how to spot and avoid stressful situations around us in the first place. We learn how to avoid stress. Another thing I want to be clear about here today is that mindfulness, meditation, it's not a substitute for science-based medicine. Keep your vaccines up to date. Take your meds. Eat your veggies, exercise, and meditate. And just for future reference, if I should get into a terrible accident and it looks like I'm bleeding to death, don't bring me a meditation teacher, okay? Give me a tourniquet, call 911, sutures, transfusions, maybe some antibiotics if needed. The great thing about antibiotics is I don't have to meditate on them. I don't have to believe in them in order for them to work. I don't even have to know that I'm taking them. And then at some point when I start to get better, I'll start working with mindfulness for stress reduction to give my body a chance to get back in the fight. Give the medications and the treatments the best chance of success. That's how they all work together. Okay, so this morning I want to bring things to a close with another short video from the folks at Happify. This is another one that's narrated by Dan Harris, who we heard from last week, except this time he's appearing in person. He doesn't have the mouse ears on this time. And he wants to clear up some common misconceptions about meditation that I think we find are prevalent in our culture. I know that he's probably preaching to the choir, but I think it's still good to keep working on a foundation, a clear foundation for what we're going to be doing. So, Jacob, roll it.
Hey, I'm Dan Harris. To my vast surprise, I have become something of a public evangelist for meditation. In this role, I hear a lot of excuses from people about why they don't meditate. I'm going to go through the top 3 excuses and dismantle them one by one. So, number 1 is, people think meditation is baloney. I sympathize. This is exactly how I used to feel. I used to think that meditation was only for hippies and freaks and weirdos and rogue gurus and people who live in a yurt and collect crystals and John Tesh and Cat Stevens CDs and are deeply into aromatherapy and wear little finger symbols and use the word namaste unironically. It's not entirely untrue, by the way, but it's largely untrue, and here's why. Meditation has been the subject of an explosion of scientific research in the last couple of years. This research is still in its infancy in many ways, but it's strongly suggestive of an almost laughably long list of health benefits, including lowering your blood pressure, boosting your immune system, reducing the release of the stress hormone cortisol. And here's where things get sci-fi. Scientists have been peering into the brains of meditators and finding that they're in effect doing a kind of neurosurgery on themselves, rewiring their brains for increased happiness, calm, and lowered reactivity. As a result of this science, meditation is now being done in some surprising places, including at major corporations like Google, Twitter, Aetna, and Procter & Gamble, and General Mills even. These are the people who make Hamburger Helper, and they now have meditation rooms in every building on their corporate campus in Minnetonka, Minnesota. Meditation is also now being done by elite athletes, including Novak Djokovic, who won Wimbledon, the Seattle Seahawks, who won the Super Bowl. It's also being done by a lot of people in pop culture, including Katy Perry, the lead singer of Weezer, and 50 Cent. That dude got shot 9 times. He deserves some peace of mind. And perhaps most compellingly, it's now being done by the U.S. military. Both the Marines and the Army are spending millions to study whether meditation can make more effective and more resilient troops. So I think this kills permanently the idea that meditation is only for weirdos. So here's misconception number 2, which is that I can't do it. This is what I hear all the time. Okay, I get it, meditation is good for you, but you don't understand. My mind is too busy. I could never do it. Here's the good news and the bad news. You're not special. Welcome to the human condition. This is the way everybody's mind works. I call this the fallacy of uniqueness. Everybody's mind is out of control. If that were not the case, we wouldn't need meditation. The whole game in meditation is starting over. Those are the key words, starting over. You're going to sit, you're going to try to focus on your breath in meditation, and then you're going to get lost, you're going to start thinking about weird things, and then you just start over, and over, and over. I'm a fidgety, skeptical newsman. I've been doing this for 5 years, and if I can do it, you can too, trust me. Okay, so here's the third misconception. I don't have time for this. I hear this a lot. All it takes is 5 to 10 minutes a day. I don't care if you've got 17 children and 55 jobs, you have 5 to 10 minutes a day. It's that 5 to 10 minutes of having a confrontation with the voice in your head, that voice that chases you out of bed in the morning and is yammering at you all day long, that can help you in the rest of your life resist the terrible suggestions that the voice offers up, which is basically its job. 5 to 10 minutes when you get up in the morning, right before you go to bed, when you pull your car into the driveway, set an alarm on your phone, and let rip. I think it'll make a huge difference for you. So those are the 3 most popular misconceptions. Now that we've killed them, you have no excuse.
Dan Harris, we'll be hearing from him at the Frontiers of Consciousness class in July. We'll hear his presentation at the Google campus based on that book that was referenced there, 10% Happier. So there you have it. Next week, a lot of people are going to be up at Lake Tahoe, including Karen and myself. Reverend Rick is going to be here for Father's Day. And then we'll pick up again with mindfulness in another 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about the very, very important topic of mindfulness and self-awareness, which is something that is woefully lacking in our culture these days and is a very, very important component of emotional and spiritual intelligence. So have a great Father's Day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you. Thank you.